The way in which we have included a film classification shot is conventional. The way in which we have placed it at the start of the trailer shows how we have conformed to codes and conventions, given that it needs to be placed at the start of the trailer to inform the audience of the age rating of the film. Also conventional to include a blackout like we have done to separate the film classification screen and the start of the trailer. This helps to separate the two shots, ensuring the consumer knows when the trailer is about to start. This shows how we have been able to conform to format codes and conventions through the way in which we have set the trailer up so the audience know and understand the separation between the film and the classification screen. We conventionally included an ambient shot of the tap running water in order to help set the scene within our trailer. It also helped to show that a key theme within our trailer was running water. The way in which we added a blue cold filter to this shot shows how it conforms to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that the blue filter helps to create an eerie and tense atmosphere through the way in which the cold filter makes the image look more distorted and unpleasant. It helps to make sure that the location looks cold and unwelcoming, meaning that it instantly helps to set the scene and encode the genre of our film for audiences. Gently close your eyes and relax. It is conventional for there to be an establishing shot which establishes either a sense of scene or characters, thus providing the audience with some context to the film. We have followed conventions through our establishing shot and the way in which it reveals Bea, identifying her as the protagonist in the film. The voiceover which reveals the character needs to close her eyes and think about her past in order to relax reinforces to the audience that she is the central protagonist in the film, as she is clearly facing some difficulties within her life at this moment, which will be explored within the narrative of the film. The shot also conforms to genre conventions through the high-key and naturalistic lighting which has been used within the shot, helping to provide a sense of realism. The naturalistic lighting and costume helps to conventionally create the impression that this illness which Bea is going through is her reality, thus meaning that our narrative is conventionally realistic for the audience. The high-angle shot which we have used also conforms to format codes and conventions, given that the way in which the camera has been positioned above Bea helps to encode that she is feeling vulnerable and insecure as a result of her mental illness. It informs the audience of the fact that Bea feels very trapped, isolated, and vulnerable as a result of being ill, thus meaning that we have conventionally included right from the start of the narrative the feelings and emotions of our central protagonist. I want you to think about the happy memories in your life. We then cut to an extreme long, focused deep shot. It is conventional for the trailer to include a long shot or an extreme long shot at the start of the trailer, given this helps to provide a sense of setting and helps to establish a sense of location. From this long shot we were able to see that Bea lives down a pleasant street and evidently comes from a family who are in a good financial position, given that the area looks nice and welcoming. Therefore, we successfully conformed to conventions by including this long shot whereby we have established a sense of setting and thus encoded the type of family and background that our potential protagonist comes from. The slow-paced and almost eerie, non-diegetic sound score which has been played at the start of the trailer so far is conventional. It is conventional given that the sound score initially is subtle and thus not overpowering. It, however, still encodes and suggests that not everything is well, thus meaning that the audience are able to instantly and conventionally decode that not everything is perfect for the central protagonist at current. The good times that you've had. Here you can see how we have cut to a long shot of Bea and Justin holding hands. The way in which the characters are holding hands is conventional to the format conventions of a trailer, given that using camera angles in order to expose and reveal relationships between the characters. Conventionally in the thriller genre, naturalistic lighting and costume is used in order to allow the audience to relate to the characters, thus meaning that when things go wrong, it soon becomes more tense and unsettling. Here you can see in this shot how we have conformed to the conventions of a thriller trailer through the way in which we have used a high-key lighting setup which is naturalistic, given that we filmed the shot within the day. You can also see through the naturalistic costume which the characters are wearing that we have successfully been able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, through creating a naturalistic and believable atmosphere through which the audience are able to relate to. The support and love that you have received. Within these previous cuts between B and Justin, we hear the non-diegetic sound score being played. The non-diegetic sound score has become more soft and gentle, helping to encode to the audience that everything within their lives at the moment is really good. This demonstrates how we were able to conform to the codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that we used a soft and gentle sound score in order to encode that the characters are currently feeling relaxed, happy, and content with their lives, thus helping to ensure that the audience understand that the characters are in a state of equilibrium. The bright and high-key naturalistic lighting that we have used in this shot helps to encode a sense of happiness and hope, thus showing that we have conformed to the genre conventions, given that we are providing a false sense of security at the start of our trailer in order to make the audience feel as though everything is going okay. I want you to focus on the laughter. The cutaway of the kitchen shows how we have been able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre. The way in which we have used a naturalistic location helps to provide realism for the audience, thus meaning that the audience are successfully able to relate to the narrative of the film and the representation of the characters. It is conventional for the thriller genre to use naturalistic locations, given that it helps to ensure the audience are able to connect and relate to the character, thus meaning that they feel more tense and on edge when unusual things start to happen. Once again in this shot you can see the manner in which we have used high-key and naturalistic lighting. This high-key naturalistic lighting helps to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre because it is used to encode happiness and joy, meaning it will provide a bigger contrast to the low-key lighting which is conventionally used later on. The smiles. The jokes. I want you to focus. The whole previous section plays demonstrates slow-paced and long-duration shots. These editing techniques which we have used are conventionally used at the start of a thriller trailer, given that they help to encode a relaxed and calm atmosphere. It helps to encode that everything is fine, thus meaning that the audience feel relaxed and in control. Therefore, we have conventionally used long-duration shots and slow-paced editing in order to create a calm and relaxed atmosphere, thus conforming to the conventions of a thriller trailer. You can see in the shot of Bea cooking at the table that she is wearing a bright pink top. This shows how the trailer conforms to conventions of the thriller genre, given that we have not only used naturalistic clothing in order to create a sense of realism, but we have also used colours and their symbolism to encode meaning for the audience and help create a conventional upbeat atmosphere. The pink top which Bea is wearing signifies the happiness and love which she feels for Justin at this point in the narrative. This therefore shows how we have conformed to conventions of the thriller genre in the way in which we have used colours to encode the conventionally calm and relaxed atmosphere which should be decoded at the start of our narrative within the trailer. On how everything was fine and how you feel now. Here you can see how we have used synchronous ambient and diegetic sound as the knife is pressed against the chopping board. The abrupt diegetic dark slam sound effects bring the calm and soft non-diegetic sound score to an end. This is conventional within the thriller genre, given that the state of equilibrium is often broken abruptly in order to break the false sense of security that has been created for the audience, thus meaning that the audience start to feel more conventionally on edge, like they should within a thriller trailer. The dark slam sound effect conforms to the genre conventions, given that it suggests something is going to happen soon that will interrupt and disrupt their equilibrium. Therefore, we have used this in order to follow and conform genre codes and conventions. The low-key lighting and use of shadows within this footage also shows how we have been able to conform to the thriller conventions, given that low-key lighting is often used in order to create a tense and eerie atmosphere. The absence of the bright and high-key lighting helps to encode to the audience that the sense of happiness and hope that which was encoded at the start of the narrative is no longer here. This therefore helps to conform to the genre conventions by encoding a dark and tense atmosphere through the use of lighting and sound, which is foreshadowing the eerie atmosphere to come within the narrative. The iconic image of the knife also demonstrates how we have been able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that we have used the iconic image to ensure that the audience decode the genre of the film. The cut to B talking in the mirror shows a more intense lighting setup being used through the way in which the mirror lights have been turned on. Mirrors are a convention of the thriller genre, and more specifically the psychological thriller genre, given that they are a symbol of self-reflection and therefore are often used in order to show the character questioning their own lives and the current situation they are in. This therefore demonstrates how our use of mirrors have successfully conformed to codes and conventions of the thriller genre. The intensity of the lights around the mirror help to conform to the thriller genre, given that it is often used to encode a forceful atmosphere, and thus meaning that the mood within the trailer has changed. The way in which B has spoken dialogue within this shot helps to conform to the format conventions of a trailer, given that it helps give the perspective of the character and reveal that the equilibrium has been disrupted through the spoken dialogue in which B reveals that she thinks her boyfriend is going to kill her. Although the shot does not use a low-key lighting setup, you can see from the darkness from the window that the film has been shot at night. Therefore, we have successfully used the darkness in order to conform to the conventions of a thriller genre by filming shots at night, thus helping to create a more tense and unsettling atmosphere.
He's going to kill me!
We have conventionally then cut to a blackout. Blackouts are often used a lot within the thriller genre, given that it means the audience has to wait slightly longer in order to see the next shot. This therefore meant that the way in which we cut to a blackout made the audience feel more tense on edge, given that they were required to wait to see what was going on. This therefore shows how we were successfully able to use blackouts in a conventional manner to ensure that our trailer conformed to the conventions of a thriller genre. We then cut quickly between blackouts and a mid-shot of Justin looking rather distressed and unfriendly in comparison to the earlier representation we had seen of him. In this section we successfully conformed to codes and conventions of the thriller genre by using fast-paced cuts and short-duration shots in order to reveal to the audience something in a quick and unsettling manner. The low-key lighting which was used to help to capture the shot of Justin helped to make him look more distressed and unfriendly, thus making the audience feel more on edge. We also used a blue filter effect on the image. Blue is symbolic colour of helping to connote fear and uncertainty, therefore the blue filter helped to ensure that Justin looked cold and unpleasant, thus meaning that he conformed to the conventions of a thriller trailer in a suitable manner. These conditions getting progressively worse. It is difficult to control. Here you can see in the previous shots through the non-diegetic high-pitched beat, we are revealed to different parts and elements of B's life and how she is not coping or dealing with her mental illness. The sudden sharp ring to the high-pitched beats help to create a tense and eerie atmosphere through the slow and gradual build-up of tension. The sound score shows how we are conforming to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, as we are using sound in order to gradually build up a more eerie and tense atmosphere. The sound also conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre by being synchronous with the shot. It therefore creates a tense and eerie atmosphere, given that the audience know when the next shot will be displayed, however they are nervous and on edge to find out what it is going to be. This conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that non-diegetic is successfully being used to amplify the disconcerting atmosphere felt and created. We then also conform to the conventions of the thriller genre through using a high-angle aerial shot in order to capture the central protagonist in the bath. We conform to the conventions of the thriller genre through this shot, given that the positioning of the camera helped to encode the fact she felt vulnerable and insecure, thus making the audience feel tense and on edge given that they had previously related to the character. The shot of the bee in the bath also conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre through the way in which we have used shadows. The way in which we directed for Bee to place her arms above her shoulders, meaning that she looked like she was surrendering, helped to encode the fact she was vulnerable and weak. It also meant that shadows were created from the white colouring of the bathtub. Shadows are conventionally used within the thriller genre, given that they help to encode a tense and unsettling atmosphere, thus meaning that the way in which we captured this shot to place emphasis on the shadows ensured the shot conformed to codes and conventions of the thriller genre. As you can see, the high-key lighting shot of Bee in the bath then contrasts to the low-key lighting shot of Justin outside her house. The way in which we have captured Bee's car within the shot helps to orientate the reader and inform them of the fact that Justin is outside Bee's house. Through the use of the two shots, we can see how we have conformed to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that we have used extravagant contrasting lighting. The shot of Bee in the bath uses a high-key lighting setup which places emphasis on the shadows, whereas the shot of Justin uses a low-key lighting setup, thus creating a tense and eerie atmosphere from the dark. The shot of Justin outside uses dark conventional lighting setup associated with the thriller genre, given that dark means it is difficult to see further afield than the shallow depth of the shot. This therefore means as an audience member you feel tense and on edge from not being completely sure as what's in the shot. The way in which we have edited these two shots so that they are close together shows we are conforming to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that it's conventional for the thriller genre to use the use of bright lighting and then contrast this to low-key lighting. In this shot of Justin outside, you hear the diegetic sound of the gravel. This sound helps to create a tense and eerie atmosphere due to the diegetic sound of the gravel being stood on and moved around is displeasing and uncomfortable for the audience. This therefore shows how we conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre through the manner in which we have used the unpleasant diegetic sounds in order to create naturalistic sounds that will successfully build and create a disconcerting atmosphere. We then cut to a high-key lighting shot of Bee in her bedroom. Once again, this contrast between lighting, high-key and low-key helps to show how we have conformed to conventions of the thriller genre by using a wide variety of contrasting lighting in order to make sure that when we use low-key lighting it has more of an impact and helps to create more of a tense and eerie atmosphere. Each day brings new challenges.
You can't help me!
The dialogue which Bee delivers saying "you can't help me" successfully conforms to the format conventions of a trailer, given that trailers will express the characters' feelings and emotions through mixtures of third-person narration and dialogue. This therefore means that the dialogue which we have used in this shot is conventional to the format conventions of a trailer. The manner in which she delivers the line in a worried tone with varied pitch and intonation demonstrates how she is finding it challenging to control her emotions, and she feels as though Justin is not helping her anymore. The tone in which she delivers the line therefore successfully conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that the tone of her voice helps to make the audience feel tense and on edge through the manner in which we can hear everything is getting too much for Bee. The way in which the key light in this shot is coming from the other room means that the shot is well lit but also gives a sense of darkness given that the shot was filmed at night. The manner in which there are lots of windows in the rooms means that we are able to see that the shot has been filmed in the darkness, thus meaning it conventionally creates a tense and eerie atmosphere, one that is associated with the thriller genre. The key light, however, comes from the other room, meaning that we can also see shadows created on the reflection of the window. The use of shadows shows how we were able to conform to conventions of the thriller genre, given that shadows are often used to create a disconcerting and tense atmosphere. The diegetic sound of the car unlocking helps to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre. It does this through the way in which the sound has been played in isolation and of a loud amplitude, meaning that the attention is drawn to the unsettling nature of the sound in isolation. Also, the low-key lighting used within this shot further helps to conform to the unsettling atmosphere created in this shot, given that the low-key lighting setup means it is challenging to see everything within the deep focus of this shot. This therefore means that the use of lighting and sound we have used conventionally conforms to the thriller genre. As you can see, we have added another layer of sound with the diegetic sound of Bee heavily breathing in a worried and anxious manner. The extra layer of diegetic sound which we have added to the sound score successfully helps to build the atmosphere and tension within the sound score, not only building the tempo of the sound score, because we are hearing the heavy diegetic sound made by the characters, which helps to build the emotion of the narrative and in the trailer. The manner in which Bee is aggressively breathing in a pronounced and exaggerated manner shows how she is worried and evidently on edge about something. This therefore demonstrates how worried and nervous she feels within her everyday life now. This successfully conforms to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that the diegetic sound is used in order to express the character's motions and build up to the climax of the narrative. I'm afraid you might lose her. This provides a false sense of security for the audience, thus making the audience feel as though everything is over. This allows the audience to calm down, given that the way in which the sound has been decreased makes them feel as though everything is okay and everything will be fine. Therefore, the anticlimax of the sound score, through the way in which we have faded the sound score out and left you with just a voiceover, demonstrates how we have successfully used the sound score to create a less tense atmosphere, thus meaning the audience feel like everything is okay. This therefore conforms to the codes and conventions of a thriller trailer, given that it helps to successfully provide a false sense of security for the audience. The use of the voiceover in this moment is also conventional, given that it gives extra information about the character. Therefore, we have successfully been able to use the voiceover in order to encode information about how the character is feeling at this point within the trailer. As you've just heard, the sound score gradually increased in pitch and tempo, meaning that it became more tense and unsettling to listen to, as the increased tempo makes you feel slightly panicked and on edge. This ensures that the trailer builds and thus helps to create a conventionally tense and unsettling atmosphere. The way in which we have increased and gradually started to develop the tempo and pitch of the sound successfully conforms to the codes and conventions of the thriller genre. It does this given that the thriller genre often builds the climax of the narrative through the use of sound and fast-paced quick cuts. The way in which the sound score then drops off and decreases in amplitude means we are able to hear a voiceover. The false sense of security is then abruptly interrupted through the close-up, shallow focus shot of Bee drowning and choking in the water. The way in which we have used a close-up in order to capture this shot is conventional through the thriller genre, given that it forces the audience to watch the action within close proximity, thus meaning they feel tense and on edge. The close-up views means that the audience has nowhere else to look, meaning that they are forced to look at Bee, who is uncomfortably choking and drowning on the water. The silence prior to this shot means that when this shot is played, the diegetic sound of her choking on the water has more impact, given that the loud amplitude of the sound successfully helps to create tension and an eerie atmosphere for the audience. The loud and intense amplitude of her drowning on the water successfully helps to create a disconcerting atmosphere for the audience, given that the sound is very overwhelming. This demonstrates how we were able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre through using the close-up and diegetic sound in order to force the audience to listen and watch something intense within close proximity. As you've just heard, the sound score that we are now using is very loud and intense. It's of a loud amplitude and a quick tempo, meaning that it creates impact and makes the audience feel tense and on edge. We have therefore conformed to the conventions of a thriller trailer by including a tense, fast-paced sound score in order to build the tension and climax within our trailer. You can also hear in this shot that we've included the diegetic sound of Bee breathing. This has become a motif within our trailer and helps to encode to the audience that she feels vulnerable and on edge. This therefore shows how we've conformed to the conventions of the thriller genre by using a displeasing and unsettling sound in order to make the audience feel on edge and inform them of the fact that the character feels vulnerable and inferior too. Thriller trailers will conventionally use action shots in order to build the climax of the trailer. Therefore, the manner in which we have used an action shot here of Justine grabbing Bee's face shows how we have been able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre by using action shots in order to create a tense, disconcerting and eerie atmosphere. The way in which we have also shot this footage in the garage helps to show that we've changed locations and settings in order to conform to the tense and eerie atmosphere that we want to create. The dark colours of the wall and the ladder on the wall help to create an unsettling atmosphere, given that the location does not look welcoming or nice. Therefore, we've used a combination of lighting, sound, location and camera angles in order to conform to the thriller conventions and ensure that we are creating an effective action sequence within our trailer. We have used a low angle shot in order to show Bee hitting down on something in an aggressive manner. The way in which B is hitting down on something in an aggressive manner juxtapositions to the calm and happy representation of B we saw at the start of the narrative. Therefore, we have used these action shots successfully to help conform to the conventions of a thriller genre through making the audience feel tense and on edge given that the characters are freely expressing their emotions now. The diegetic sound created from B aggressively hitting down on something helps to show the impact of her actions. It helps to show that she is very aggressive and angry at this point within the narrative, given that from the diegetic sound we can hear, we know she's having a force and impact on the thing that she is hitting. This therefore helps to create tension or edge in a conventional manner. It does this given that it juxtapositions to the calm and collected representation of B that we saw at the start of the narrative. Therefore, now the way in which she is aggressively hitting down on something shows how she is not in control of her emotions at all anymore. Action shots that we have captured mainly use mid-shots and close-ups. This meant that the audience was unable to see the whole shot, meaning that they felt more tense and on edge due to not exactly knowing what was going on. The combination of the quick cuts and the action shots have been captured using mid-shots and close-ups helped to conventionally create a tense atmosphere, given that the audience felt in a position of vulnerability as they were unable to see everything that was going on, meaning they felt just slightly detached from what the outcome was going to be. This therefore proves how we have conformed to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that we were able to make the audience feel tense and on edge through the manner in which we made sure that the shots were fast-paced and intense and difficult for the audience to keep up with. In the shot of Justin running across the driveway, we amplified the diegetic sound of his feet pushing against the gravel. The amplification of the diegetic sound successfully conforms to conventions of the thriller genre, given that it helps to create an eerie sound on the gravel, given that the gravel being pushed together is a disconcerting, intense sound, thus meaning that it successfully conforms to the conventions of a thriller trailer. In this shot, we also used iMovie in order to make a bigger contrast between the light and dark. This therefore meant that the road looks really dark, thus helping to conform to the conventions of a thriller trailer by making sure that the locations look eerie and unsettling. This therefore shows a contrast from the start of the trailer, where we saw the street in snow, where it looked pretty and aesthetically pleasing. Here we show how we've used the same location but have edited the location in iMovie in order to make sure that the location conforms to the part of our trailer which we are using it for. Therefore, this shows how we've edited this location in order to make it more eerie and unsettling for this tense action part within our trailer. It might be too late. The way in which we cut back to the initial aerial shot of B lying on the bed in order to break and put an end to the climax helped to create continuity within our product. It meant that we were conforming to format conventions of a trailer, given that they will commonly use the establishing shot later on within the trailer to remind the audience of where it all started. The way in which we edited this shot so that it had a colour layer on top of made B look more flushed out and pale. This demonstrates how we have successfully conformed to genre conventions, given that we have been able to edit the colours of the shot in order to make B look more cold and therefore unsettling for the audience. It therefore successfully encodes that she is not in a good state or way, thus meaning that a tense and eerie atmosphere is created. The use of the line "it might be too late" as a voiceover also successfully shows how we were able to conform to format conventions of a trailer. The way in which we used a voiceover once the climax of the trailer had stopped helped to show how B is running out of time and that her illness is getting progressively worse. Therefore, we used the voiceover conventionally, given that it gave the audience more information about the narrative of the film, therefore meaning that they could decode the narrative of the film in a more accessible manner. Dependent. The shot where we have used fake blood helped to ensure that our trailer conformed to the thriller genre. Blood symbolises death and danger, and red connotes fear and anger, and also death. Therefore, the manner in which we captured the blood slowly falling into the sink in a close-up helps to show that we were able to conform to the conventions of a thriller genre through using blood and its symbolism in order to create a tense atmosphere. The way in which we slowed down this shot so that the blood could be seen and decoded by the audience also shows how we were conforming to the format of the thriller genre, given that we were forcing the audience to look and decode the blood that they were seeing. You can see from this shot we've added a cold layer over the shot. This cold layer makes Justin look washed out and pale, thus helping to encode the fact that he's drained, shattered and tired of all these things that are happening with B at the moment. This successfully conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that in a naturalistic manner we have helped to encode the fact that Justin does not look normal and like his usual self, given that he is tired and drained from the impact and effect that B is having on his everyday life. The slower cuts which we have used within this section of the trailer helps to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre and the format conventions of a trailer by bringing the narrative back down and detracting from the climax. The longer durations of the shot mean the audience have longer to decode what is going on, and they have time to put together the narrative. For example, they have time to read in this shot here the fact that B is dependent on relaxation books and tablets. This, with the inclusion of the voiceover, also helped to inform the audience about the characters, thus proving how we were able to conform to the conventions of a thriller genre by using the voiceover and long duration, slow cut shots in order to give the time for the audience to find out information about the characters and what they were going through in their life at this current time. We are then introduced to the diegetic sound motif of B heavily breathing again. The worried and anxious manner in which she is heavily breathing helped to ensure that we conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre, given that the worried and on edge manner in which she was breathing helped to create a tense and eerie atmosphere which is conventional to the thriller genre. It also shows how we were able to conform to the format conventions of a trailer, given that we were using non-diegetic sound, diegetic sound, and dialogue, all in order to help encode meaning and make sure that the audience understood the narrative of our trailer and the atmosphere that was meant to be created from it. This mid-shot of B screaming helped to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre. The high-pitched and piercing scream helps to create an unsettling atmosphere and shock the audience, given that it is uncomposed and juxtapositions the representation of B that we saw at the start of the narrative. However, the bright and high-key naturalistic lighting setup which has been used within the shot also helps to conform to the codes and conventions of the genre, through the way in which it creates a sense of realism for the audience, thus meaning that we are reminded of the fact that this is B's reality, and her reality is that her mental illness is taking over and controlling her life. And this is only the beginning. The use of the voiceover and "this is only the beginning" helps to inform the audience that things get a lot worse. It helps to hint towards the fact that in the film lots more things are explored between the relationship of Justin and B. Therefore, this line and voiceover is conventional for a format convention of a trailer, given that it hints towards the fact that the film has a lot more content and action. It therefore encourages the audience to go and see the film in order to find out what this action involves and what the ending is for these two characters. This shot where B slams everything off her desk in her bedroom helps to provide a sense of the fact that she's given up hope. It helps to show that she's really had enough and that she can't face things anymore, given that she just wants to get rid of everything that was ever important to her within her life. This conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that it helps to provide a sense of the characters losing hope, and this is often the case that this is seen within the end of the trailer of a thriller film. In this shot you can see how we have ended the trailer using the diegetic sound motif of the water running out the tap. The water is running out of the tap in a rather forceful manner here, thus showing how it's changed from the start of the narrative when it was just dripping out of the tap. This therefore shows contrast and continuity within our shots, given that we've used the same shots and sound, but we have used them in a different manner in order to create tension and an eerie atmosphere for the audience at this point in the narrative. This shows how we've successfully used sounds in order to conform to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that the sound of the water running into the tap is disconcerting and unsettling for the audience. Mid-shot of Justin grabbing Bee's face helps to conform to the thriller genre, given that the action shot helps to establish the development of their relationship and the way in which it's got progressively worse. The use of the mid-shot helps to conform to the conventions of the genre, given that the audience can't see everything that is going on. Therefore, although the audience can infer that it is Justin's hand around her face, this is only an inference due to the fact the conventional mid-shot prevents you from seeing everything in the shot. The handheld camera movement of Bee running down the street also conforms to conventions of the thriller genre. The manner in which the handheld camera movement is shaky means that it's hard to focus on exactly what is going on. This therefore conforms to the conventions of the thriller genre, given that it makes the audience feel panicked and on edge, and positions them in a position of vulnerability due to the fact they can't exactly focus on what is going on. The fact we are left with a shot of blood splattering into the sink could be symbolic as to what happens within the film. It therefore gets the audience questioning what is going to happen within the film, and thus shows how it conforms to genre codes and conventions, given that it successfully encourages the audience to think about what is going to happen within the film, therefore making them want to watch the film. Blood is a convention of the thriller genre, given that it is symbolic. It connotes death and pain, and therefore conforms to the thriller genre, given that it successfully helps to create an eerie and tense atmosphere. The film title and the release date screens both show how our trailer conforms to format conventions of the thriller trailer, given that the audience are able to find out what the film is called and when it is being released, so that they can find out more information about how to see the film and what the film is about if they wish to look into the film further. We have conventionally included this at the end of the trailer so that it sticks in the audience's mind and they do not forget the name of the film, meaning that they have more chance of being able to find out more information about the film. At the end of the trailer, when the non-diegetic sound score is decreased in volume and pitch, making the audience feel as though the trailer is over, shows how we were able to conform to codes and conventions of the thriller genre by providing a false sense of security for audiences. The sudden insertion of a high-pitched and fast-tempo, non-diegetic sound score in cohesion with the mid-shot of Justin with a cold blue filter effect on successfully shows how we were able to conform to the codes and conventions of the thriller genre by using a jump scare in order to make the audience feel tense and on edge, given that they thought the trailer was over and they were not expecting this to be coming.